Right now, when we talk about UI UX design, the only significant tool that pops out is Figma. Everything from wireframing, low fidelity design to complete UI design is being done over Figma itself. So if you want to enter UI UX design field, you must learn Figma. That being said, hello everyone. Welcome to this video on Figma Tutorial for Beginners from Intellipaat. Today, in this session, we are going to teach everything you need to know about Figma. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to design end-to-end Fintech UI component that you are seeing in the screen right now. I'll be using a hands-on approach throughout the session, starting from explaining the fundamentals of Figma and how I'm approaching design to developing the complete UI screen. So guys, make sure to stay tuned until the end of this video to come across more content like this. Enable both subscribe button and bell icon for Intellipaat YouTube channel.
So to get started, just go to any of the web browser that you have access to and just type in figma.com and just click on enter and you will end up in Figma website. And the thing is, you can use Figma in two ways, that is by using web application, which we are using right now, and we'll be using this throughout the tutorial. And there is also an option for native application where you will be downloading an application and installing it in your computer, and then you will proceed to do the same. So here, just go to login if you already have an account, and you can just sign up to Figma. It's very simple, and you can set up your account and then you can proceed to login and then start using Figma. So since I already have an account here, so I will just log in. Here I'll just put in my email ID and my password and then just log in. I've put in my email ID and password. I'll just click on login. This has routed me to my Figma account. So initially, as you just log into your account, you can see that you will be greeted by this page. Here you will be able to see all the files that you have created in an account, and since this is a very fresh account, I don't really have anything else. And Figma offers you many templates, as you can see here. From FigJam, I'll explain to you in a moment what FigJam is, but these are all templates, standard templates that they offer for you to help you out with many UX processes that you can do it here. Right out of the gate, you will see that at the top, you can see that recents. These are all the files that you might have created. All the files that you have under your account, it will be shown here. And you can see here design file and FigJam. So design file is where we are going to be bringing our designs that we have, whatever the ideas we have, to life. Basically all the visual centered stuff that we can do, the UI designing, prototyping, wireframing, all these things are done here. And FigJam, so this is another product that Figma offers where you can do collaborative brainstorming and many UX processes. It's a very helpful tool. This we won't be covering in this tutorial because it's entirely a different thing, but I really recommend you guys to explore this. And you can also see an option here to import any file. So what happens is that once you create your design, whatever it might be, you can share the Figma file, and that Figma file, in order to open it, you have to import it through this option. And in your left hand side, you can see a panel here. So this is where you can see a bit of information about your profile, and you will see your team and draft. So basically inside your team you will have many files. So you can see here. So you can, if you have a paid version, the premium version, you will be able to create as many projects as you want, and inside that you can have many Figma design files. And another thing is that you can also have certain files in your draft also. So in the free version, they will give you a limited amount of design file that you can create in your project. But in your draft, even if you're using the free version of Figma, you will be able to use as many, you will be able to create as many files you want. So now that we know a general idea of how to get started in Figma, like how to set up the account and stuff, we can directly jump into design files. This is where the bulk of features that are Figma is really known for is used, and this is where you design your user interface or even wireframe, prototype, all these different features that Figma is really known for will be used. So we'll move into that. For that, you just have to go to Figma file here. When you click on this, it'll ask you whether you want to create it inside a team, that is if you want to create a project, or do you want to do it in draft. So I'll just click on this, and this will create a Figma file. It is untitled, as you can see here, and it will create a untitled file, Figma design file, inside your team. So only a limited amount of files can be created, and inside these files I can also create different pages, which I'm going to get into in the next section of the video, where I'll be explaining to you the overview of Figma design file interface. Once you're inside the design file, you have to understand there are general places in the interface that you have to be aware of, or general components you can think of them as. So one such places or a component of the interface is the canvas, which is very vital because designers, this is where the designers bring their ideas into life. Moving on, the next component of the interface that we are going to be having a look at is the layers panel, layer and asset panel. To understand the application of the layer panel, first we have to understand how does things that we make in the canvas work. So whatever we make in the canvas, they are taken as layers, and let's say we create a rectangle and we create another rectangle. These are two different layers, and we keep one upon the other, or we keep them together, whatever it might be. Maybe one might be inside one another. All these things are layers essentially. And whatever we have in our canvas, these layers, whatever the layers we have, it will be shown in the layer panel. And this helps us keep track of different layers that we have in the canvas. And further, when we have a look at these things in more depth, you will understand that this also helps us select things, delete things, and there are so many other applications to layer panel. So we can move on to asset panel. So asset panel lets you save certain layers or components that we have created in the canvas, and it lets us save them, and then later on from asset panel we'll be able to pick them up and then reuse them whenever we want it. So this is a very good and helpful feature that Figma has. Moving on, further we have our toolbar at the top of the screen and top of the interface basically, and we have all our basic tools that Figma has to offer us that will help us out creating different layers in the canvas, and we'll be getting into this in more detail. And also we have our file name. This is where we can set all our file name and stuff, and also toolbar contains this collaborative stuff which lets us know how many people are using our file or viewing our file, all those things, and it lets us share our file also. And there's a developer toggle switch also, which I'll be showing it to you in brief. And we also have prototype play button. So what we do is, once we prototype, which very briefly we will be touching on, and once you do prototype whatever the design you have, you will be able to see how it works by clicking on these buttons, which we will get into more in detail. Next we have our design panel. Design panel contains all the different aspect of a layer. So basically its dimensions, its color, or if you're talking about text boxes, you will have many other things, many aspects that are related to that layer, the type of layer that we are dealing with. So these kind of things can be customized in this place. So in this image you can just see a color here. This is basically a canvas because we don't have anything here, right? So it's just canvas color. And if I had any layer in my canvas, I could just select it, and then I can change the different aspects of these layers depending upon the type of layer it is. With this, you also have a prototype section. So if you select prototype here, you'll be able to define all the different type of interaction that you want to keep for certain reaction or feedback that you are expecting. These kind of things can be designed using that panel. So in design we are just changing the visual aspect of it, and in prototype it's more about interaction and the flow, Basically, that's where you set the flow and stuff. Now that we know the general layout and the different components of the interface, I think we can get started. So the first thing that you will notice is the Figma file name here. So it's showing in which folder it is in. It's in team project, and the name you can just change it. You can just click on this and then you can change the file name to whatever you want it to be. And the first thing that we are going to be starting in the tool is I'll give you an introduction to all these tools that we have in the toolbar. This is essential because all these tools are very fundamental to create the different layers that we are going to be doing in the canvas. And once you know all these tools, it is easy for you guys to create very basic designs also. So the first one that we are going to be looking at is the shape tool. So shape tool, you can see here, it's just right between here, and when you hover on it also, it will show you whatever the shape, see, shape tool it's showing. So there are so many shapes that you can create using shape tools, and it's very essential while making UI design. You will see that you have to create these different shape of layers. Like for example, for a button you have to create a shape like rectangle, you have to create ellipse, you have to create polygon or star, whatever it might be. So what you have to do is you just have to click here, or else there is shortcuts like you can just click on R to create rectangle. To create a circle or an ellipse, you have to just click on O. Like this, there are so many shortcuts, and it's worthwhile to learn them also because it will save you so much time. So here, when I click on this, and then I can just drag it here while keeping my mouse clicked, you can see I am able to create a rectangle. And you can see right now the aspect ratio is not fixed. Whatever I set in the mouse, it will be it will be applied. But let's say I want the aspect ratio to be equal, like the width and the height ratio should be the same. At that time I can just click on shift, just keep it pressed, and you can just drag around the square, like it will turn into a square because width and height would be the same throughout. The ratio would be the same, and it would be 1:1, and that's why it's a square right now. And like this is one layer basically right now. So I can create many other shapes. For example, let's say I will create an ellipse, and I can create even a polygon. So the polygon is a bit unique because see, at starting it's only showing like 3 sides. You can increase the number of points. So I created a rhombus, I created pentagon. Like this, you can increase the number of points, corner points, and it's a bit versatile. This is the design panel. We'll get into this a bit later. And there are like shapes like stars also, line is there, there is the arrows. All these things you can try out and are really helpful while making basic designs or basic layers in your design. Moving on, in your design you don't just have the shapes, different shapes. We also have text layer. So the text layer, you can see that I can set a size here and then start typing. This is the text layer basically. I have assigned an area where I can type. There are more things to it. When we get into text layer in more detail, you will understand. But through this tool here, if the shortcut for this tool is T. So if you just click on T, it will give you something like this. If you just click on the canvas, you can just stop typing from here also. So I'll say Figma is a great tool. So when you do that, you can see that there's no area that is assigned to the text layer. It is just going on like this itself. The width, it's adjusting to the text. So this is something you will see in more depth. So this is how you write tool. Moving on, we have certain basic tools also, like hand tool. Hand tool is basically to like just traverse the canvas. So you can move around using this, and even if you are in a different mode, for example, this is move, which you will learn next. But let's say you want to move in the canvas itself without using the mouse or anything like that. Just press on this and then you see the hand tool will appear. This is one way. So another one is your selection tool, also called as move tool. You have two tools clubbed into here. So there is move tool and there is scale, and you can see the shortcuts associated with them. So the move tool, what happens is that it involves selecting a layer basically. So I am selecting this layer, rectangle. It's a square, but it's a rectangle. So I just selected it. I can move just by clicking on it and then just dragging it around. uh, in Figma, you have two types of selections. That is, one is your normal selection, another is your vector selection. So right now what I'm doing is, it's just normal selection. I can just move around like this, one click. If you do double clicks, it'll go into vector selection. So vector selection is another unique thing which allows a designer to manipulate whatever the layers they have selected in more detail, and it gives a degree of flexibility in designing. So for example, let's say I want to bring a certain amount of roundedness to this corner. So I'll just select it. I've selected it, and if you want to select multiple points also, you can select multiple points like this by pressing down on shift. And again, I want to select this together with these two, and I will select I've pressed shift and then I've selected this point. Okay, these 3 points are there, and then I can round them off. I can manipulate it however I want. See, I'm able to move them. So this is something you have to practice and then get it right. You will get a hang of it, and you will be able to make different other things also. So for example, you have you can see here there's, so when you're in a vector selection, you will see that there are these certain things that appear here in the toolbar. Otherwise you had some other things, right? So here you just click on bend tool and then you click on here. It just bent it, right? So these are different tools that you can use to manipulate your shape or the layer however you want. So it gives the designer a degree of flexibility and ways in which the person can create, and it's very helpful for creating these unique and complex assets or artifacts in Figma. Once you're done with vector selection, like whatever you wanted to do, you are able to do it here. So once you're done, you can just click on done here, or else you can just click on escape. So it will take you, all these tool, it will take you again escape. If you click on, it will go to normal selection. So this is how you use the two different types of selections. Very important. There are certain many other things with vector selection, but people who are starting out, it's better to know these two types of selection at a basic level. It's not just with square. This was, if you remember, it was a rectangle. Now it's in a different shape because of vector selection. It's not like only these shapes can be done. Any layer, even this ellipse layer or any layer can be done, but with few exception like text or anything like that. All in all, a very helpful tool. Moving on, we have our pen tool. Very simple tool. It has two tools clubbed together there, pen and pencil basically. Pencil is very normal. You can just draw a line. So it makes it something like this. Let's say pen tool is a bit different, because what happens is that, let's say I click here on the canvas and I want to draw a line. I created a line. This I could have done it with line tool also. But let's say I want to create a line that is a bit rounded. So I will just click in the mouse, but I will not let it go. It'll stay pressed. So I can bend the line like this, and I can also bend, control the rounded surface where it should be bent. So these kind of stuff can be done using pen tool, and pen tool can be done used in a more versatile way also, in combination with shape tool, where you use it with vector selection. Something that for people who want to try it out, you can try it out. Very useful to know. So that was pen tool. So additionally, we have comment. So comment, or you can use the same by just clicking on C in the keyboard. So you can see this is in comment. So I can place comment in any component or layer or anywhere, in even in empty space. So this is more of a collaborative feature, because what happens is that Figma is really well known for its collaborative capabilities, and when you're working on a full-fledged project, most of the time what happens is that you're working with many other people, and you would want certain feedbacks from them, you would want to communicate with them in this file itself, and Figma allows multiple people to work on the same design file. So in that cases, if you want to put some kind of feedback, you can just put it here in form of comment, and then you can just put submit, and other person who's looking at your project, he will be able to hover on this and then be able to see the comment. Very good feature, very helpful, and it is used very widely. And once this let's say a person has given a feedback and it is resolved, you can just click on resolved here. Now let us understand another important tool, that is frames. So it's very essential, very important. So essentially whatever the layers that you are going to be creating, you will be placing in a frame. But let's understand why we are going to be using frames and why we are going to be placing all the other layers in a frame to start with. So for that, I have just created these shapes here using start. These are all made from shape tool itself. So let's say using shape tool itself, I'll create a rectangle. I'll create a rectangle, and what I want to do is, let's say this is my screen and these are my assets, and I want to place it. Let me just bring it to the front, and yeah, I will place it here. So now that I have placed it on the rectangle, but what happens is that when I move the rectangle, see, the stars also don't really move with it. This becomes a difficulty when we are talking about a UI, when we are designing a UI. So what we do is we have a tool called as frames. So frames, how it works is that whatever the design you have created, all the associated design that you have created, if they are placed in one place, it is better in that scenario you use frame. And most of the time it does, because let's say in a UI you will have buttons, you will have menus, they will have so many other components. So you want them to stay in one place, right? When you move them, and you need to move them here and there in the design process. So what I will do is I'll just drag this shape into the frame. So now if you can see, what happens is that, first of all, you might have noticed that like once it is inside, only the part that is fully inside, that will be exposed, not the other. So when I move this frame, you can see the shape also will move. So this is how frames work, and there are more things to it which we will understand later on, but this is what frame allows you to do. So basically it can hold all the different layers inside it, and it is a very helpful tool, and essentially it's very fundamental while creating UI design. Now that we have completed most of the things that are offered by toolbar, we can move on to layer panel, which is another essential thing that we have to, as designers, we have to understand about and must be able to use it. So a very simple thing that I can do to explain it to you is just show it to you practically. So you can see that there are two shape layers on a frame. Okay, it's inside the frame. So, and even inside the frame, as you can see in the layer panel, star 3 is in the bottom and star 2 is at the top in the list, in the layer panel. And you can see there is a bit of indentation here. That means inside frame 1, there is star 2 and star 3. And you can, also minimize this, all these things. But you can see that star 3 is at the bottom. So if you just move around star 3, on top of like near this star 2, you can see that whatever you do, it doesn't go on top of that red color star. It's always in the bottom. That means whatever the layer that is there in the bottom, that means it is in the bottom most. It will always in the bottom of that star. So if I want to bring that on top of this, let's say I'll just drag it here. See, star 3 is at the top now. You can see this is how you define the hierarchy and the layers, where what is on top of what. We can define it using layer panel. And also let's say so basically if I want to select both the shapes here, I will just press down on shift and select both and then just drag it out. It's now outside the layer. You can see here in layer panel both of them are independent layer and there is no indentation now. That means all these layers are independent. They are in the they are not inside one another. They are not really nested. They are just sibling layers. So what you can do here is still, but there is a bit of hierarchy, like if a layer is at the top of the list, that means it's on top in the canvas and it will always appear at the top, and whichever layer is at the bottom, it will appear at the bottom. So if I just move this frame and then just, even though I want this layer to go on top of these stars, it's still going on the bottom because it's in the bottom of the list in layer panel. So if I want this to go, just I want that layer to appear at the top of the star. The star shouldn't be be visible, right? So if I bring it to the top, you can see here. See, whatever I do, it will remain at the top. But see, there's a difference. So when I drag these objects, press down shift and then just drag it inside. See, it is brought inside the frame. So this is how your design tree works. We call the layer panel, whatever it does, we call it as design tree because it kind of forms like a sitemap, right? It shows that hierarchy of layers. So this is what we call it as design tree. And it's not just layers, simple shape layers that we can do like this. Each and everything, that is your text layer, your shape layer, or even another frame, all these things are translated into layer panel, and you can set the hierarchy of them, like which should appear on top of what. All these things you can set it using layer panel. Okay, now that we are aware of what different tools in toolbar does and how do we use layer panel to our advantage, and we know our way around it, now we can move on to design panel. See, design panel, you can see right now it doesn't have much. So it's because we have not selected any layers. See, I have not selected any layers in the canvas. So whenever I have not selected any layers in the canvas, it will appear something like this itself. So you can just edit, like just color of the canvas and opacity, all these things. You can even hide it. And there is local variable, local styles, which is not really important for people who are starting in beginners level anyways in Figma. And all these things are relevant when you're doing UI design in a higher proficiency. So there's export, which is always common everywhere. So if you click on this, is generally used to export whatever the layers you have in your canvas. So if I want to convert all the layers that are there in my canvas into PNG, or there's JPG, SVG, PDF, so I can do that. I can just click on this and then it'll ask me where to save it, and it's easier like that. Not really important for now. So right now, by default, whenever a layer is not selected, it will show something like this. But let's say we click on any layer in our canvas. See, all these different kind of stuff that will appear that you can edit basically. So these are all the different aspects of a layer, any type of layer. So certain things such as like these position X and Y that you can see, width and height, certain things will be common for all kinds of layers. But for example, let's say I select a text layer. Text layer, you will have different set of settings that will appear in design panel that you can use to change the different aspects of it. You will see in a minute. So the first thing that we are going to be doing is that we are going to be having a look at all the different aspects of layers that are common in all the layers. Okay, so things like position, width, height, all these things are there. So for first I will just delete these two things because so, and I will bring a rectangle here and maybe an ellipse also, so that I show what's common between them, all those things in the design panel. Um, yep. So this is a frame, this is a shape, that is rectangle, this is the ellipse shape. So if you click on frame, you will see that there are certain things that appear in the design panel. First that will really you will see is that these kind of things, these alignment stuff. So I'll show you to what they are in a minute, but for now you cannot really use it because there's nothing inside frame, there's no layers inside the frame. Okay, and if you click on same thing here, see they're all disabled. So we'll go back to frame. These things that you can see here, that is x, y, that is the coordinate in which it's basically the position of the layer in the canvas. Okay, one thing you have to understand is that you need to understand the parent child layer concept. So here canvas is the parent, okay, and these are basically its child layers. So it's inside the canvas, right? So if I have a shape inside the frame, now this is the child layer of the frame, and the frame is in turn child of the canvas. Okay, so like this is how it works. And x and y always it is so for example here x and y, it's there. So you can see the value changes when I bring this to top here. See, the y is equal to 0. So x and y values will always be in with respect to the parent layer or canvas, whatever it might be. Okay, inside which it is there, according to that the values will be there. Okay, always understand that it's 0, y value is 0, and you can see now x is also 0 because I've kept it there. See, it's in a corner, right? So that is how it works. It goes to minus also. As soon as I bring it outside, see, the values drastically change. Yeah, do understand that. So that is the position value, which is common to all the layers, if you can see. But in frame you can also set, see, it's written frame, and you can select the different types of frames that are there. You can change it to that. Okay, you can say MacBook or something like that, but we don't want to do that. We want to keep this custom frame here. Okay, you can also set like portrait or landscape. Okay, like this, but I don't want to do that. So again, all these kinds of stuff, no, you will be able to figure it out. You can resize the fit here using this option. But these options that are there at the top, this only appears for the frame. If you check in shape layers, you won't find all those things. So you can just go here, and x and y you understood. W and h, it's basically the width and the height of the layer. So same thing applies here. All these things are there. If you change the value here, let's say you bring it down, the width will decrease. You bring it up, it will increase. Height, same thing. But there is an option right beside here. It's common for all. You can see that it's a bit different here. See, it's called constraint proportion. Okay, so what happens is that, let's say that if I try to increase the size here, you can see that only the width increases and decreases, right? But the height is not really doing anything. Okay, so that means the aspect ratio, that is the width and the height, the ratio between them is not really, it's changing, constantly changing, and it's not really constant. If it was constant, when I increase the width, height should also increase. right? I can do that. I can just, put that constraint here. Now if I increase this, because I'm doing it directly here, that's why the issue is. Let's say if I do it here, see, can you see if I increase the height, it's also increasing here. Got it right, guys? Same thing goes here. So right now the aspect ratio, it's not set. So if I increase the height here, see, it will only increase the height. It's not increasing the width. So if I click here, the ratio is set now. So if I increase now, the width also will increase. So very important to know this, because when you're dealing with icons and stuff, you will be, it's easier for you. The second option that is common to all the layers is its angle, that is rotation. So if I want to rotate this layer into 45 degrees, I can do that. Again, 90 degrees, I can do that. So like this, that's how it is used. Okay, know that when you change this rotation, your x value and y value will also change. So you can see ellipse also, I can do the same. But in ellipse, one option is not common. See, it's already rounded, right? In ellipse, I have no corners in an ellipse. But if you go to layers that have corner, there you can see, you can change this. You can see this is corner radius. You can increase and change corner radiuses. So for example, let's say I change this. See, corner radiuses, I can change it. But the value that you give here will be applied to all four corners. But if you click on this one, you can set the exact corner radius for each corners. See, top left corner is there, top right corner is there, bottom left corner, bottom right corner. So it's very helpful to go with that. This is something that is specific to iOS, and it's not really important for you right now in this stage. And see, you can observe one thing when you select two layers. Okay, there's an additional option that appears here. This represents the gap between the two objects. The layers basically. This is the one. See, 1, 2, 2. So I can increase it, decrease it, whatever. This is minus actually. So these kind of stuff you can do it. You can select all three also. See, it won't appear for all three, but what you can do is in the bottom you will get this icon. That means arrange it properly. See, now if you select, see, now it's appearing. Now you can arrange the distance between them. You can set it however you want. It will be equal. So this is how design panels work. Okay. There are many other things that are there. It's auto layout is there. When you learn auto layout, you will understand. And there is grids. Grids is more specific to when you're designing your UI. You will be using that to bring that pixel perfectness to your design. And layer setting is also there, where you can set whether you want whatever the layer that are there behind the selected layer. If you want that to be visible a little bit, if you want that thing to I'll give you an example. So this layer is actually, I'll just bring it to the front. Okay, if I decrease this, see, can you see the layer that is there behind also is visible? So it's kind of like opacity itself. So these kind of stuff you can you have liberty to do all those things. And there is fill. When we learn about colors in Figma, we'll be covering all these things. But for now, you set the hex code here, the color here, and this is the opacity of the color. So basically, it's whatever the fill that is there in the center part. It basically manipulates the fill color, opacity of that. So the next thing that you will see is stroke option. So stroke is very, it's easy. Basically what it does is that it puts a layer of stroke in whatever the layer you're using. So basically if I put one stroke here plus, so you can see there's a border to it. Now additional no, a border is given here. I can, change the thickness of it. I can change the opacity of it, and whether it's inside the layer, outside the layer, or even in the center. I can change it, and there are additional settings to it. You can explore it. Okay, so the type of, if I want, these kind of dashed border, I can change that also. Next you will see next option is effect. Okay, so what happens is that if you click on plus, immediately it will give a drop shadow. Okay, by default it will give you drop shadow. I don't know if you are able to see it. See, something like this. You can see the drop shadow, right? So what I can do is, there are several effects to it. There is inner shadow, so which it gives it, I'll just disable the stroke. It's in the inside, so yeah, you can see here. So that's the kind of shadow, and there is layer blur. So basically it will blur that layer. So if I increase it, the blur will increase. That is there. uh, and then we have another one, that is background blur. Very useful one. You might have seen in morphism. So you can just increase the blur here, and then maybe this one 10% I'll keep. So if I bring this shape here, one minute, let me just, can you see there's this morphism that is happening? So this is how you do that, by using the effect background blur. So all these effects can be changed. So for example, drop shadow itself, you can change it. You can change it, in what direction the shadow must fall, the blur of the shadow, the spread of the shadow, all these different things you will know. So basically, and also there is the color of the shadow that you can change. It's always 25%. You can change it however you want. Suitable. If you make it 100, it will be very solid kind of thing. So you have to zero something like this. It will look not really pleasant. So yeah, that is one thing you can do. So earlier I told you that export is common to everything. So these are the general things that you will be able to see in design panel. And by now you must have already understood and got an idea of how design panel can help you out in making various designs, because most of the things that you would want to manipulate in with a layer, with a shape, or whatever it might be, they are present in the design panel already. So using this, you can make an UI very easily. Next, we are going to be covering typography in Figma. Now that we know all the different aspects, I know how to change different aspects of different layers, what we can do is, let's have a look at typography in Figma. So in this part, what we'll be covering is how to change the different aspects in your um, text layer, basically. So how do you first create your text layer? That is, you can just go here in the toolbar and then click here, and then there are two ways to go about it. Is one in which you can define the area in which you want your text to fill. Okay, you have your text. I guess we've are zoomed in too much. Yeah, now let's do this. So here what I did was, I have defined an area. So whatever the text you will be pasting here, or whatever you're going to be typing, it will only occupy this area. It won't go outside this. The length, what I mean by length is the width. The width has been defined here. So if I paste my text here, you can see that, see, it won't go overboard from here. Let me just, and you can also change it like this also. See, as I increase, see, only within this border, the text will occupy only within this border. And what happens is that you can, so this is not proper. I will just explain this, what this is. So whatever you can see here, it hasn't gone overboard. But if you have text that, it's too lengthy or something and your box is too small, it might go, the height might vary, the text might go outside. But if you're talking about width, it will not go overboard from that. So this is one way, and other way is just, if you click on T in your keyboard, that's another way, right? And then click on the canvas, you'll see a cursor will appear, and I will paste whatever it is there. Okay, see, this layer just goes on and on and on. What happened was, whatever the length of text I have, the layer width adapted to that length basically. So this is another way, and you can manually place, your enter wherever you want, so that it can, you can edit it however you want. Like this, it went to the next line. So from here I want it to go to the next line. Done. So you might have observed this already. When you click on enter and you look at the design panel, you can see there is a new section, that is text section. So here you can set everything, like for example, you can also change the font here. So if I select this and then I go here, I will write plus Jakarta. So this one. So now this is of different font. This is in Poppins. So I can change it to, let's say, anything. There are so many fonts that you can choose from. It's always here. Let me Montserrat. So this is one font. So let me just delete this layer here. And there's another option in there itself. You can also control the weight of the text. So here you have so many options that lets you, and also you can change the style also. You can make it italic or something like that. So all these options are here, and here you can set the font size. So you can, change it to how much ever you want it to be. Right now it's in 30px. I can make it to 12. I can make it however I want. But because we have defined the area for this text layer, it remains there. See, essentially the text layer length is this much itself. So these things are common for everything, but you don't have this corner radius or something like that, because it's pointless for this. And other things that you have are your line height. So basically, if you can set how much height a line can can occupy. So basically, right now if I select it, so if I select this, you can see only this much, right? So if I right now it's in auto, you can set it as auto. But let's say if I give 100, see the line height, it increased. So something like this. And next is your letter spacing. So sometimes what happens is that we will have so small area, right? So what we can do is we can reduce it, bring the letters a bit closer. That is also, and you can see the matrix is percentage here. So be very careful with that. It's not px or pt, anything like that. And another thing is paragraph, distance between paragraph to paragraph. So here we have let's say something like this, and I can increase the paragraphs. I don't really have any paragraphs here. So now that I have selected it, see, when I make a paragraph inside the text layer itself, what I will do is I can set a paragraph to paragraph space. So that's another thing. So next is this section. It's very important because this is where initially what I was explaining, comes and connect to. So basically if I set auto width, so what it will do is whatever the layer you have, text layer, it will, according to the content that you have put here, according to the paragraphs or whatever it might be, it will adjust the layer width and height. So if I click on this, see, there were two paragraphs, and how much ever the paragraphs goes on till there, the width will also go, the layers width. So that is one thing. And there's also this one, the second option, auto height. So basically, let's say I have my height somewhere here, the layer, see, it's only this much, but all the text is going outside. So if I click on auto height, see, it adapts. Wherever the content is, it will cover that. And this is fixed size, which we tried out already. So fixed size we have already seen. So even if the the content is going outside the layer, outside the boundaries of the layer, it doesn't really affect it. The layer dimensions would remain the same. So this is one thing. And there is standard stuff, that is alignment. If you want it to be aligned to the left, you want it to be center, right, you can set all these things. See, center, right, all these things. And also sometimes what happens is that you have your line here. So this is in the layer itself. So for example, in the layer itself, if you want to align it somewhere, let's say to the center, to the bottom, so like this, something like this. So you might have seen it many places. It's the same thing. So in the layer, if the content is occupying at the top, you want it to be in the center, you can do that. So something like this. And there are more options that you can explore here. There is alignment, more alignment like justify and stuff, and decoration, underline, cross, strike through, sorry. And there is also case you can change. You can change everything to caps, small, or title case, something like this. So there are so many things you can explore in the text section in design panel. So this is how you can manipulate, change, and however your textual content is there that you want to put it to your UI design, you can manipulate this in such a manner using design panel. And it's very important to know about it, because usually your UI will not just have shapes and designs, right, logos, it will also have text, and knowing this is very important. So let's move on to the next section. Colors in Figma can be made into many variety ways. It can be used in various ways. So to show this example, we will take one shape, that is rectangle, and then you can see that in design panel there is a fill option here. Not really an option, fill section. And in fill section you can see that whichever color it is, so its hex number will be given. You just click on this color and you can choose whichever color you want your assets to be colored in. And what we can see here is we have this option from where you can if you have any other assets in your canvas, you can just take colors from there and then you can put it to your asset. And also there is an option to change colors. So for example, let's say I will go for something blue color, then you can choose which shade of blue, and also you can change the opacity of the colors. And also right below you can see which options you need. For example, RGB, these are all different ways of defining the color. So that option is there, it's very handy. And also whatever the previously or recently colors that you have used, that will appear in the document colors. Colors, this color what you can see in the screen, it's just solid color. So there are different ways of using colors. So there are gradients, that is also possible in Figma. You can do that by choosing this option just above this palette here. So you can see this is a gradient. So you can, the gradient is, this is a linear gradient, and you can also set the different types of gradients here. There is radial gradient, there is angular, there is diamond. So in linear, if you can see, the line can be changed, the line, and according to that you can change the gradient throughout the shape. So let's say I need another color in this gradient. So what I will do is I will choose this color, and then I will choose something like this. So as you can see, there's a different color that I have chosen, but it's not really visible in my shape. So you have to increase the opacity of that. By default, the second color in the gradient will be, opacity will be 0. So you have to increase that, and then you can change it however you want. So this is a gradient, and also if I change the type of gradient, like you can see here, in the center there's one color, and just beside it there's another color, and according to this line, like depending on how you move this line, you can see that it shows and allows you guys to manipulate the portion of the shape which is exposed to that color. So basically it's allowing me to change the exposure of that color on that shape. Like this, there are many ways of changing this color. You have angular color, which is also very useful, and instead of a line we have a circular shape, and this shape we can use to change the exposure of the color. There's also diamond. So in diamond also you have line something like this, and also you can place more color. It's not like only two colors can be used. So for example, let's go to linear, and let's say I want another color at the center, and I will place it, let's say something green or yellowish or something like that, even red. So here what we have done is, like, we have placed another color, and I can manipulate this exposure here also in this part. So till now, whatever the colors that you have seen, whatever the gradients you have seen, you might have observed that they are highly customizable. However the designer wants, he can design. So, but this is not just, related to the layers. It's not like we can use the fill option here only to color these kind of layers, like shape layer or frame or anything like that. You can also do the same for text, and so for example, let's just create a text here, and let me just zoom in. Let's say I'll write Intellipaat, and I'll make it bold so that it's visible, and also maybe increase the size a bit. So let's say right now the fill is like this, and what I can do is I can go to gradients. I can, and same way how you were customizing your shape layer or any other layer, you can do the same for text layer also. So this is how you use colors, and these are the different ways on how you going to be using colors in Figma. So auto layout is one of those features in Figma that is very useful, and you will be using it very often, and it's important for everyone throughout all the levels, beginner, intermediate, or professional, whatever they might be in, they should know auto layout. And it depends on what level they are in and in what proficiency they will be using it. But still, at least for us right now that we are showing you in a beginner level, it is important for you guys to know why we use auto layout. So auto layout does a very simple thing, that is arranging all the elements in a layout, but it happens automatically. That's hence auto layout. And because it is happening automatically, all the, it makes the design very consistent. Okay, and thus making a design consistent is very vital in UI designing. So to understand why we use auto layout, how we use auto layout, what I will do is, first I will be making a design, a card design, a very simple card. And in that card, you won't have much things. It's like it'll have a username, it'll have email ID, and maybe a small, ellipse and one, square checkbox kind of thing. Okay, and just to make this card, I will do it manually first, and then I will make it using auto layout. So first without auto layout and then with auto layout, so that you know the difference. So first what we'll do is we'll make an ellipse. So ellipse, let's make a small ellipse, 60, that is fine. And text is right now 32, we'll change it, user name. Let's make it first name. So these are the components, so this shouldn't take that much time. So first name, last name, it will be displayed, right? Yeah, and we'll just decrease the size to 20. And now we need one email ID also, right? XYZ. Something like a checkbox or something that you will have. And yeah, so these are all the components. Okay, I will make it in two ways. So one is manually, I'll be doing it somewhere here, and I'll do it with auto layout here. So first thing, I will do it manually. So I'll be using a frame because I'm making a card, right? That's why it'll be easier for me. Let's say it takes this much size. I don't know how much size it might take, so I'll change the fill to maybe something like this color. I've bought it here, and first name, last name, I'll bring it here. I have to arrange everything, right? So when I'm doing it without auto layout, see, I have to arrange everything manually itself. I have to search for it, and I don't know the exact gap between them because there are so many elements here, right? Yeah, let it be in the center. See, even when you're using IntelliSense, it's a bit difficult, right? So this is our card here. I don't think the gap between the elements are consistent, and also the distance here also is consistent. So this is without auto layout. Let's make this the same thing. So I will select all the layers that we need in auto layout, and we'll make it, we'll make it in auto layout. So what we'll do is, first of all, we have these two things here. To create an auto layout, first you take one layer, and then you have selected it, just press Shift plus A in your keyboard. Done. Auto layout added. Shift plus A. So you have an auto layout here, And what you will do is, right now you can see when I select that auto layout, you will see that frame 2, right? In the layer also you will see it has some kind of this icon. So here in this option, you will see in the design panel, a new option has come, that is auto layout. Here you will see these are the things that I will show in a second. So when I place this inside it here, see, automatically it arranged. And I will create yet another auto layout. Don't worry, I'll explain what is there in the design panel. And I will place this here. And all these are done. And yet another auto layout I'll add. And done. And I will add a fill which will be of this color. Done. So I know this auto layout doesn't seem much right now, but here you can see there are so many things that are customizable. So for example, the gap between these things, I can set it like this. And the padding is also there. So I can set the padding also by selecting this. You can see here, this is the padding. I can increase the padding here, and even the radius if you want. And you can see I can go to that specific frame, that is the auto layout that I have used here, and I can reduce the padding here to set it right. So everything is customizable, and you will see that it's easier to maintain like this. So I made this relatively very easily than this. I had to look into, and even now this card is not really consistent. This card is consistent. Everything is customizable easily also. That is also is there. So this is why you use auto layout. And I'll tell you what are the different things that I can change in auto layout. That is very important. So you can see that. So I have selected frame 4, which contains this component and this layout, which has many layouts inside them also, and this small square. Okay. And you can set how you want it to be arranged. So do you want it to be arranged vertically, horizontally, and also this is something that comes like we call it wrap, but what happens is that it depends upon the size, width of your frame. Basically it will adjust to that, and it will arrange all the components inside it according to that. So let me just change it. Yes. And what you have here is the distance between the different elements. So you have many elements here, right? I can set the distance between these elements exactly, and it will be consistent throughout. And this, what you have here is the padding, that is whatever the area is inside the border, but this is just horizontal padding only here. We have padding for top also. It's being highlighted for both. See, it's horizontal. This is horizontal. This is vertical. So I can increase it vertically also. So this way, this makes auto layout very versatile, and it's makes the design process very easier and faster. Hence, it's very important. And also, you can see here, you might see this. So this will set how all your items inside your auto layout to be arranged. So for example, if I put it align top left, everything will be to the top left. Now if I set it to top center, you won't see it because the frames are not suitable. But if it is in the center, it will be in the center. If I do it to the bottom, it will get arranged to the bottom. So this is how auto layout works, and it's very helpful. With a couple of practice, you will get it surely. Let's move on to the next section now. Constraint is one of those features offered by Figma that lets you put boundaries to the movement of certain elements inside one another. That is basically what I'm speaking about is child layer. So let's say there is a scenario for you. So what I will do is I will create one frame, and I have an icon. I have an icon that should stay at this position, that is here. And I have made a, let's say initially I have made a design for certain this frame. And when I increase, let's say increase the width, okay, can you see that this square is following this with the right side, but when I'm increasing the frame size from here, it's not really moving the shape layer. So why is this happening? This is because of a small feature in Figma, that is constraint. So basically you have constraint. So by default what happens is that whatever the shape or layer that you insert into your frame or any parent layer, what happens is that it automatically goes into, horizontal constraint would be, it will remain to the left side of the frame. The distance between the left side of the shape layer and the leftmost edge of the frame layer, the distance will remain the same all the times. Even if I increase the size here, see, the distance between this and this will remain the same. And it is the same because vertically also there is a constraint. So there is top written here. So pictorially you can set it here itself. So that is one way. Or else, let's say I want this icon, whenever I increase the size of this frame, it should remain at the top side, but in the right side. Okay. And no matter what the frame size would be. So for now, if I increase like this, see, it's going left. It's moving with my left edge of the frame. But I don't want this to be the case. This is something like our profile icon or something. So what I will do is I will change the constraint to right. So right now, the horizontal constraint would be to the right. There are several other constraints. You can try it out. They have different applications, but in a basic level, you have to understand about these basic constraints, that is left, right, bottom, top, so that you will be able to change it, and even center. So now if I move this edge, see the this icon or the shape layer, it will not move with the edge, but it will move with the right edge. So now when I am moving to the bottom, I want this icon to travel with this bottom edge. When I move this, it should also move a bit down, how much ever the edge has been expanded. So what I will do is I will select this and then I will set the constraint to bottom. So now what happens is that even if I increase the frame, it will travel with it, and it will have the same distance all the time because of the constraint. So this is constraint, and this is a simple application, and when you start practicing with this, you will understand that it is very vital to have these constraints, because there are so many elements in a screen, and when you're making it responsive, so you have to keep track of all these things, and you cannot keep track of all these things realistically. So you have to set a constraint, and then even if you change the frame size, so it will remain in the same, whatever the constraint you have set, it will remain. And it doesn't mean like you cannot change the position of this. Okay, you can change it anywhere, but in case there is a change in the size of the frame, then how will it travel? That constraint will be set here by using constraint option in the design panel. And there are so many other constraints like center, for example. So center, what happens is that right now I've set in horizontal constraint, I have set it as center. So it means that even if I move it from here also, it will travel. If I move it from here also, it will travel, but it will remain in the center ratio basically. But this remains the same because the constraint is bottom. So I can set it to be center itself in vertical constraint also. Now what happens is that no matter how you move your frame, it will travel. Basically it will try to remain in this ratio itself. Whatever the distance ratio is there to the to the left most edge and the right most edge, it will maintain it. But you can move it anyways. So let's say I move it to center. You can do that using this here. Here, done. So you will be able to see. So this is how constraints work, and it's very helpful while making your designs for different types of screen, where you have same types of elements but you will be using it for different types of frames. So it's very easy and you should know about it. The next feature that we are going to be having a look at is components. So it's really a good feature from Figma where you can create any asset. For example, let's say we'll create a button, a login button, or any kind of asset. Let's say you have a card design or whatever the asset might be, artifact might be. So you can just create it once, and most of the time what happens in an UI, you will have to use it again and again, right? So what we do is in Figma also we'll be creating the asset once, and then we can make it a component, and then we can reuse it again and again in our design. So what happens is that, like, let's say for example, so you have used the component in multiple places in a UI. So you have used it, but then suddenly later on you decide to make some changes. You don't have to do changes one by one to each of the component, like each of the asset, but you can just go to the master component, that is the main component, and then you can, if you make the change, what happens is throughout the UI wherever you have used it, that change will be applied. So this is the theory behind it, but let's look at it practically. So now let's create a button, and then we'll convert it into components, and then we will understand how components work. So basically just create a text layer. So just type button or maybe login. This is your layer, and then put an auto layout here and add fill here. So yeah, this is our button. Okay, right now let's say this is how it is, the button. Okay, and then you go here and then just duplicate it. You can duplicate it, right? And it is, all these duplicates are being used in different parts of an UI. Like there will be many options for logins, right? So what happened is suddenly your manager says, okay, I think the button doesn't look good. You have to maybe the corner radius you can increase. So you will have to change everything. But if you're using components, how do you use it? First, you just select whatever the asset you want to make it into component. You just click here at the top, or there is a shortcut that is Ctrl-Alt-K. It will make it into component. See, if you press here directly, that will make it into a component. But once you have done this, understand this. This is the master component. So whatever the duplicates I will create, either I can create duplicates directly. 1 minute. I can create duplicates. You can see that the symbol is different. There is a symbol here for component. There is a symbol and it will be highlighted in purple. But this will also be highlighted in purple. But the symbol in the layer panel will be different for all the duplicates of master component. So I can create duplicates like this, but I have to change the corner radius now. That's what my boss wants it to be. So I can just change it, and you can see here, once I make the change, whatever the change it's there to the master component, it will change in all the other child components. And see, if you make any changes to the child component, it wouldn't do any changes to the master component. So for example, let's say the color might be different in different places. So what I will do is I'll just select it, and then the color will be like blue or something. See, it doesn't change the master component. But let's say in master component, if I change any kind of like a structure or the length or something. So for example, if I change the padding, if I increase it, it will all increase in the child component. This is how components work. And additionally, once an asset is made into a component, so basically you can go to your asset panel, which I have just introduced to you briefly earlier in this video. So you can see, you can just get it from here. So whenever you need an this asset, you can just pull it from here. You got your asset here. And also there's an option here in the toolbar. You might have seen resources. So here in the component section, you will find whatever the components you have created in this page. It will appear in this part. So this is how components work in Figma. Now that we are done with components and we understood how it works, so we can move into prototyping. So prototyping is an advanced topic. You can think of there are simple ways to go about it, but you can do certain advanced stuff in it. So basically prototyping, why do we use it? So let's say you come up with all the UI designs, okay, for your application or whatever it might be, and your client wants to know, okay, how will it work exactly? I want to see when the app is up and running, how will it look like? How will a certain button, how will it work like if I say login and the screen change, all these things, how will it look like? It should be like a prototype itself, right? So this kind of prototyping capabilities is provided by Figma. So there are certain simple things I will show you to you in this video, but later on, as you guys practice and then you get into intermediate level, you can start learning prototyping. But we will be just having a look at in the most basic level. So first we will make like two screens. Let's just make frames. So let's say this is frame 1 and this is frame 2, and these are our, think of this as our mobile screens, and in the middle I will just write this is screen 1. So I'll say screen 1, and I will keep another screen, the second screen here. So prototyping, what you do here is you just go to prototype here, and then you will see, just hover on any of the screen that you have created. Let's just additionally create colors for the screen also, so that it's more indicative. Let's say we'll make this color, and we'll make it maybe something bluish. Okay, so if you go to prototype part, you just click here, and then you can just drag it to where you want it to travel. So basically, if the person clicks on this frame, he will be he will be traversed into screen 2. How it works is that, see, you can also in prototyping part itself, you can set on click. So this is the type of interaction. So on drag, if you want him to be taken to a different screen, let's say let's on drag, I'll just copy this frame here and maybe change the color to green. So it's there, and so now I'll go back to prototype part. I will say from here it should take me to this frame 3. If the person drags. See, on click already that interaction, you go to screen 2, or else you'll go to screen 3. That is, I have to write it here. So what we'll do is we will run this. And there are certain more interactions. There are advanced, like for example, while hovering, if you want some changes to happen, if you want, for example, while pressing, you want some changes to happen. All these kind of different interaction can be done. And you might be getting a rough picture how by using this feature, we can, whichever UI design we are going to be making, we can make it alive. Basically, we can make prototype using all these features. So prototype is very important because most of the time what happens is just making design wouldn't give the clients idea, okay, by just by looking at the design they wouldn't understand, okay, how will it work. If you want to paint a more accurate picture, you would have to use prototyping. So now that we have created all these connections and stuff, let's just check it out, the prototype. So to look at the prototype, actual prototype, you have to just from wherever you want to go, you have to select that frame, or else sometimes you can create these flows. So it also gets detected automatically, so no worries. Just click on here and then select this button here at the top right corner. So just click on this, so it will get loaded. And now you're in the first screen. So if I click on this, so on click interaction, I had set it as if it has to go to screen 2. So I just manually changed it back. And if I drag on this screen 3 will come. So this is how it works. So this is how prototype works. So basically now we saw that all the interactions. So when I kept it as like on click, it should go to screen 2, and when I drag on this, it should go to screen 3. These kind of interactions will be there in your UI. So there will be many more, like hover will be there. There's so many things that are there, and also animations are possible here. This is just simple traversal to different changing to different screens. But in prototype, in Figma itself, there are so many animation capabilities, and they're very complex. I would suggest you guys first to start learning UI and then start prototyping and learn all these smart animations and stuff. So this is what prototype looks like. Now that we are aware of all the features and tools that are offered by Figma, and we are pretty comfortable using them, we can start applying whatever the knowledge we have gained throughout this video to create an actual UI design. So we have found that the best way to practice and get good at Figma in the initial part, like in a beginner level, is to just pick up any design that are already out there. Like for example, let's say you have a favorite application that you want to redesign. You just pick it up, you just take a screenshot and then bring it to Figma, and you just start recreating it. So I just copied an image and then pasted it here. So this is one UI that we are going to be creating. There are so many UIs that are there in the community section of Figma. Just explore there, just pick some UI design and try to recreate it. Also, I have all my components here. So these are, as you can see, there are all the smaller components that are used in this UI. I have made it, prepared them and then kept it aside so that it can reduce our time, because these are all repetitive work. No matter what, I will be explaining all these things, but still these are a bit repetitive and time consuming. So to save a bit of time, I have kept these components already ready. So to get started, how do you practice in a beginner level? What you do is, first you have this image, you have a screenshot. So just go, and first of all, whenever you're creating any UI, you have to have a frame. So just go and keep it on top of this image and try to get an approximate of this. And Just bring it here. We have our frame here. So you also might have observed that we'll keep it back here. You can go a bit further, like can make it more accurate, but it's depends on how perfect you want to keep your design. So that is there. And you can see that screens are curved here. So corner, we know about this. We go to our design panel and then just increase it till it matches the screenshot. We got that done. And now that we have our frame ready, we will get certain things done. So you can see at the top you have these timings and all these icons are there. So these kind of icons you can get it by using a thing called as plugins. So how do you access these plugins? So you can see the resource tool that you can see in the top bar, in the toolbar, sorry. So you just click on that. You can just click on plugins here. So here there are several plugins. You can just Google it for icons. The one that is really popular is Iconify. So in the top bar you will find this plugins in the resource section. There you can just click on this plugins. It will be by default, it will be in components. You just go to plugins and then here just type icons. There are so many plugins that you can use. So just use any one of them. You can just Google which one is best, and you can see they provide icons. So you can just click on run. It will take a bit of time. So now you can see that this is the plugin. So here you can search for whatever the icon you want. So there are so many different plugins, so you can choose. There are so many varieties, but for now I won't be using this. You can for example, let's say you need this icon here. I can just pull it from here. I got this icon here. So this is how you use plugins, and there are so many plugins, guys, and for each and every requirement there is that is not there in Figma, you can get it from plugins by using plugins. So because all the requirements that are there from the designer perspective are being met by Figma application also, and also by the plugins additionally, this is why designers generally prefer using Figma. So here I won't be using any plugins or anything like that. Searching it would take too much time, so I have it ready here. So I'll go to assets and then I will just find this. I have it here. So I want it to be in the top of my screen. So what I will do is, you can see here, you can see this option here in the design panel, that is align to the top. So align to the top, and I want it to be aligned to the center also, right? It's kind of tilted, skewed towards left. I will just make it centered. Done. This part is done. And also these designs that you can see, these are complex ones, but it's not really that complex also, because you can just create it using pen tool. So we won't be doing that again. It is time consuming. So what we'll do is, we'll just fill with that solid color, that's all. So I want the same color, so I'll just use this eyedrop and then just select it. Done. I got it here. So I'm done with this. Next is the logo. I will get the logo from here itself, or even I can make it. That's not an issue. And also I have to write the name of the application here, and we have this icon here in our components. So we will use that. First, let's make the icon. So there are so many shapes. I won't be making the same icon. I will just use one polygon. So, and then I will duplicate it and tilt it to maybe 45 degrees. and maybe try to create an icon. So I'm just trying to create something that is usable for now. um, Corner radius, I will increase it a bit. So then once this is done, see, I don't want them to, all these layers, there are 3 layers here. I don't want them to be like separate components. I want them to be one unit. So what I will do is I'll just select everything. And in Figma, we have a feature of grouping things. So what we will do is just press Ctrl plus G. So this will be considered as one single group. So what we'll do is let's scale it, make it smaller so that we can use it as an icon. Let's say of the height 40. Let's just check. And earlier you also saw that there is another tool called as scale tool. So we'll use the scale tool now. So we have scaled this to 48. If we want it to be bigger, maybe if you want to compare it, just bring it near this one and try to compare it, whether it is big or not. So I guess it's a bit big. Something like this, but a bit smaller. Done. So we have our icon basically, and now what we have to do is we have to recreate this. We can use any font we want. We are not, it's not like you have to be constrained in one. So text, and because it seems a bit bolder there, I'll make it bold. Maybe bold, and also the letters are not that cramped, right? So we will just increase the distance between the letters. So something like this, but they don't seem like they are of the same size, right? So let's just increase it a bit. Yes. So what we will do is we will just group this. We forgot about filling this. We will change the fill to something white. And auto layout. It looks something like this. We can just bring them near to one another. And we will group it together. Now we have a logo kind of thing. And we have a component already, so we can just copy it from here. So I want them to be in the same level and make it an auto layout. So auto layout, and then what you have to make sure is that they are in a proper distance. So one thing that we can use to make sure that the gap, the margin is proper throughout the design is we can use grids. So this is one thing that is used to make sure everything is always up to the mark. And you can use column here, and we'll be using 6 grid, and margin will be 16, or you can increase it. Let's say you want somewhere around 28 or 32 is fine. We'll use 32. And this is how you use grids, so that it is more consistent, something like that. Yes, the top part we have created yet. The next part that we are going to do is this part where it's greeting the user, and there's a tagline kind of thing. We will arrange it properly later on, but for now what I will do is I'll just type it here. Now what we will do is we will scale it so that it matches this. And I think the distance between letters is a bit too much. and also between the letters. And done. We have completed that also. Now what we will do is we will create these kind of stuff. So what we will do is we will create something like this and we will scale it. Increase the font. Now once we have this, we have made it into an auto layout. Also, you can see that there is a progress bar here. Use a shape tool and group them together. So now we have a whole component in our hand. And we can adjust the distance between them. So by taking the reference of this screen, this image, we were able to create these two things. So try to arrange them as much as possible for now. Later on, we will be using auto layout to just get it more consistent, make it more consistent. So once this much is done, we have completed halfway through it actually. So what we will do is we will be creating this bottom nav bar. So to create bottom nav bar, I have all the icons and you guys also know by now that how to get those icons. So what I will do is I'll just bring them here. Center them and apply auto layout. Once you apply auto layout, just make a fill here, and what we will do is we will take that color from here. Before that, we will have to change the selection color. Now that we have this, we can adjust the gap basically. So you can just bring here itself. So you can just eyeball it. And then we can try giving padding. So now we have our navigation bar, bottom navigation bar. Done, completed. So now what we will do is, for this part we are going to be creating a different frame so that we can place it easily in the screen. So just you can copy the width of the screen. So for example, here its width is 749. 749. There are these kinds of texts, and now that you have seen how to take text from a screenshot into your design, let us just skip that part. So just the way how I had created the top part, I have created the frame and also the text that are there. So that is done. Maybe the text you can tune it however you want, but the important part is you should know how to. So I have all the components with me already. So these components, just the way how I had showed you how to create, do the auto layout and nested auto layout, you can create these. And also this component is again straightforward. So now let's proceed to bring together our design. So what we'll do is, first we will make a copy of this. We have all the icons that we have to use. So for example, we have this one. Make a duplicate out of them and just copy the dimensions that are followed here inside. So it's 88, 88. We'll have to do here the same thing, 88. So basically we have all these things already with us. So just bring them aside. And we have to arrange them side by side, something like this. So what we'll do is, we'll just make this, put it into an auto layout and then put it inside. So bring this here and try to match the gap. And done. So bring it to your design. More than this, we have to place it in this first, in this frame. We will bring it to the center. Since we already have our text here, we will just place it here. And the next section that we'll have is transactions. Transactions. We'll make it into an auto layout so that it's more even and more proper, so that we can manage it properly. So same thing goes to the bottom part. I have the component ready here. So just change wherever you can make the changes. What you can do is just click on it. Since this is an component, not too much changes also you cannot do it. So just detach this instance here. Also this part. Now this is done. Just auto layout this and this. And just set 20 distance. I don't think that much of distance is needed. You can just compare it with whatever the screenshot you have. Seems too much. And we have transaction, auto layout, sometimes what happens is that auto layout is not a best fit every time. So what you will do is you can remove the auto layout also. So how do you do that? You press Alt Shift A and then you can manually keep the element wherever you want it to be. So I want it to be here, somewhere here, yes. And then you can just, the frame will be there but it won't be an auto layout, that's all. So you can just align it to the center and we'll select both the frames and we will auto layout it. Now we can say this is a bit of the only thing that we have to do is we have to place this in our frame here. Know that we already have nav bar at the bottom, so we've hidden it basically. So what we will do is go to your frame, select this frame, so select that frame and make it come to the top. So layers, earlier we learnt about layers, right? Just you have to set the hierarchy. And here you go. first of all, we'll set auto layout for these, and then we'll set an auto layout here, and then we will close the gap here. Now you can see that our design is coming together, right? Here you go. Just by having an image, now we have created a full-blown design. Like this, you can create more designs of whatever the app you want to do. You can make it on your own.
Just a quick info guys, Intellipaat offers UI UX course in collaboration with iHub Divya Sampark IIT Roorkee. Through this course, you will learn complete UI UX design thinking, interaction designs, wireframing, and guerrilla testing for a rewarding UI UX design career. This UI UX design course will be taught by IIT faculty and industry experts. With this course, we have already helped thousands of professionals in successful career transition. You can check out their testimonials on our Achievers channel, whose link is given in the description below. Without a doubt, this course can set your career to new heights. So visit the course page link given below in the description and take a first step towards the career growth in the field of UI UX design.